Good morning, everyone, and we are on the second part of the lesson, and now we will focus on the surnames used or allowed to be used by children. Now, there are three laws governing the use of surnames for children, and let me enumerate. First, the new civil code, then the family code, and third would be RA 9255, or a more recent law that I will be discussing in a little while. Okay, since the Philippines or the Republic is classifying two or children like legitimate and illegitimate. Legitimate children are those considered to be born within the marriage, and adoptive children or adopted children are considered to be legitimate under the law. And on the other hand, the illegitimate, those who are considered born out of wedlock, so there's no marriage at all by the parents, whether biological or not, then these two classifications entail um, the legal effects, and that one would be, aside from um, succession laws on succession, one of those legal implications would be on the use of surnames. Now, according to EO, or Executive Order 209, or the Family Code of the Philippines, legitimate children has the right or have the right to use the surname of their father and the mother. So, legitimate children uses as middle name the surname of their mother and the surname of their father as their surname. So, um, since I'm a teacher, I check on the record if the child has three names: the first name, the middle name, and the surname. That means the child is legitimate. Now, according to Article 189 of the Family Code, adopted children shall use their adopter's surname, and that also entail, especially that there are two parents adopting, then they are also using the middle name and the surname of their um, adopters. Now, aside from that, EO 209, or the Family Code, we have RA, or Republic Act 9255. It amends Article 176 of the Family Code, or EO 209. A while ago, I just mentioned legitimate children and adopted children. Now, Article 176 of EO 209, illegitimate children, it says before, illegitimate children can only use the surname of their mother. So, again, as a teacher, based on the record, class record, if I see that the child or the student only has two names, the first name and a name, and it's not even indicated whether it's a middle name or a surname, it's automatic that the same is the surname of the mother, and that student is born or was born out of wedlock. I'm sorry for that if you hear the dog. Okay, let's continue. Illegitimate children now, according to RA 9255, may use the surname of their father if the filiation has been recognized. So it is not automatic. So there is another element, which is recognition. So, based on this provision, it is required that there should be an affidavit of recognition or an acknowledgement of paternity or filiation. So if you look at the certificate of live birth of a child, and at the back of it there is an acknowledgement of filiation or paternity, it means that the parents are not married, but the father recognizes that the son or the person indicated to be born in the certificate of live birth is his own. So you have to take note of that. So in the front page of the certificate of live birth, the child's parents are not married. So the status of parents there would be not married, or it's blank, left blank, or there's no entry as to date of marriage and place of marriage. So at the back of it again, there's an acknowledgement of filiation or paternity, and that's where both parents, not wedded or not married, will sign that area, and it shall be notarized, so before a notary public. So in that way, the person, the subject of the certificate of live birth, is considered to be born. But you have to take note that this can be impugned, meaning it can be attacked, or the father or the person who signed as a father could say that, oh, it's not, he is not really my son, or I will question the validity of that acknowledgement or affidavit of paternity. Now, we will be talking about the restrictions or limitations of using the surname. You have to take note that, as a rule, no person can change his surname without judicial authority. And this same restriction or limitation applies even to your first name and middle name. But since our topic for today is on surnames, then we will be focusing on surnames. Now, usurpation of a surname may be the subject of an action for damages and other relief. Usurpation could be the use of someone else's name and without authority, and it is done in bad faith. And if it is without authority, it means that the person whose name is being used has the right of action against the latter. So you have to take note of the legal consequences of an unauthorized use of surname. Now, the law says that the change of name or surname should be done with judicial authority. So you have to take note, when can a surname be changed, and you have to relate that with Rule 103 of the Rules of Court. The Rules of Court provides the procedures, the means and method of asserting a right or establishing a status, and that one would be the grounds for the change of surname under Article 1, Rule 103. So there are three grounds for the court to allow the use or the change of surname. Number one, the surname is ridiculous. Especially Filipinos' surnames are somewhat sometimes funny, or we acquire it based on our ancestors' choices before, and it could be in the recent time that the same is ridiculous or not really timely, or it through time it changed its meaning. Like as an example, actually my surname, if I would be living in Zamboanga or in Chavacano speaking areas of the country, then my surname would be ridiculous. Again, the meaning of my surname is male drunkard. And I could actually petition in court saying that I got bullied, I got demeaned, or it was really difficult for me growing up because I'm being bullied by the people around me, given that my surname is this. And it's another example or another ground would be to avoid confusion. So there are cases decided by the Supreme Court denying the petition to change his surname because neither grounds enumerated, as you can see in our screen, that were established or was established by the petitioner. So in that case, the state is very restrictive, and there's a limit to the right to use of your surname. Now, I want to give as an example a case regarding the change of surname of Yap Ek Shu versus Republic of the Philippines, and the petitioner Yap Ek Shu wanted to change his name to William Tanchon, and the lower court granted the petition, but the Republic, as represented by the Office of the Solicitor General, appealed because the petition did not comply the standards based on like the either of the three grounds allowable under the rules of court and under case law. Now, the Supreme Court finally decided and said that our civil code recognizes that a person may change his name or surname if allowed to do so by proper judicial authorization. However, that use or the right to use actually or having a surname is actually a privilege, or I mean the right to change the surname is actually a privilege and not a right conferred to the person. So having a surname, a person has the right to have a surname, but the act to change the surname, having another one, is a privilege and not a right. So, since it is a privilege, the rules must be complied with, and the law says that either of the three grounds should be established. Now, in the same case, the Supreme Court cited the first case on change of surname, and it's the case of Ong Peng Uan versus Republic of the Philippines. There's this person, the petitioner Ong Peng Uan, wanted to change his name to Vicente Chan Bon Lai. His reason is social and business circles knew him since 1946 as Vicente Chan Bon Lai and not Ong Peng Uan. What did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court said, it must not be forgotten that the state has an interest in the names borne by individuals and entities for purposes of identification of its own citizens, and that a change of name is a privilege and not a right. Again, in this case, Ong Peng Uan failed to establish to allow the grounds to allow him the change of his surname. And it's not even enough that he was known to be Vicente in the business and social circle since 1946, having or bearing such surname. So the Supreme Court had to deny the petition of Ong Peng Uan because again, neither ground was established. So, in special cases actually, surnames, the use of surnames, not your real surname according to law, is allowed. And one is using the pen name or stage names. And what we can cite as an example would be the stage names of actors and actresses, and also the writers or editors of newspapers. Like if they write something, they're using the author would use another name to hide the identity, or maybe to protect that person of whatever article or written opinion is being published. Now, pen names and stage names, since it is protected, could not be usurped. And the use of pen names or stage names is only allowed if these two elements are present: good faith and no injury to third person. Example of actors and actresses are the persons who can use pen names. So it was done in good faith for the business or for the industry, and there's no other person who could be harmed. And except in these cases, you have to remember, no person is allowed to use different names and surnames. So you have to remember these restrictions on the use of surnames, and there could be the general rule is that you have to use your surname is allowed under the law, and except in some instances, and in case you want to change your surname, you have to establish the three grounds. It could be ridiculous, to avoid confusion, and an incident. I forgot to say that a while ago. An incident of some change of status, and one of them would be, what if a wife got married? So a woman got married, then she chose to use the surname of her husband, and then later the husband died, and because of the death of the husband, the marriage bond was cut. So she can revert, the widow can revert back to the use of her maiden surname prior to their marriage. So in that instance, then change of surname is allowed. Thank you so much for listening, and have a nice week ahead, or we're in the middle of the week. Enjoy the rest of the week. You take care and stay healthy and mentally strong while we are still facing the pandemic. Thank you and enjoy learning. Have a happy day again.